and welcome to another exciting episode of the Phoenix Pod.
Ba-da-da-da-da-da. It's the Phoenix Pod. Pull off into paradise. Ba-da.
Some things never change.
Nope.
And that awesome intro never ceases to amaze me. You know, I would try that and I'll just stumble over it. I may try it just for funsies on the last episode, maybe at the end as a bonus. See if I can do it, maybe. We shall see. But yeah,
can be part of the outtakes at the end of the episode.
Oh yeah, like a DVD extra, like off Moonpig. Yes, not Moonpig, wrong episode. Music Magpie. There you go. Moonpig does something else. But yeah, if you're wondering why I'm rabbiting on so much already, it's because Cox is having a well-earned rest and having a night off, like I did last week, because shit happened. And yeah, lots of shit happened all at once, and I went, nope, can't do it. Which is true. Indeed. It was. So I had the night off, but yeah, came back swinging with a 3.5 hour episode the week after. So yay, back swinging. Whereas Lewis here, the grafter, he's been here all the way through.
I have, yeah, but you know, I'm more than happy to. Well, I'm more than happy to do it because it gives me something to do of an evening. Yeah,
the life of someone who's furloughed.
Yes,
exactly that. But yeah, if you're wondering who we are, I am someone who is definitely stupid. And as I was told off last podcast I recorded, I'm not allegedly sexy anymore, but some people may find me sexy. Open to opinion.
He is a man who is half a man.
Ooh! See, we could do it ourselves.
Close.
He was close, yeah. You're better. So you're better at being coxy than Coxie is. Yeah, it weren't bad, that. Oh, I'll take it. Suck it. Fuck, that's as close to perfection as I'm getting on that. Yeah, but it's me. It's me. It's Stupid Sexy Flinders. And it feels like I'm wearing a Goonies t-shirt tonight for no apparent reason.
Nice.
Had to be done. Oh. But yeah, joining me tonight is, the man that's already been mentioned. Best known for stowing away in places, or being very early and punctual. Depends on your viewpoint. It's Lewis Ogden.
How's thou doing?
I'm doing fine.
Wonderbar.
Wonderbar indeed. And this episode, we're going to be talking about episode 5 of Max-and-Paddy's Road to Nowhere. And as we've just discussed off air, we can't seem to find an episode sort of title for this. So together we kind of came up with the episode name of Dirty Pig. Dirty Pig. And I'm quite happy with that. So
yeah.
Shall we just kick it off by saying that the episode starts out, you see the luxury motorhome travelling around a random country lane, and they start off by, you see a shot, and the first line is, I'm starving, I am.
Paddy's hungry.
Oh,
I could do with a bit of food myself. And Paddy's like, have we not got out in back? And
Max not done the big shop yet.
Not done the big shop yet. Patrick, the cupboard is bare.
It's sort of, they go past sort of like, they start talking about sort of where they could go, and then is it Max that says about a country pub?
Oh yeah. Paddy's just sort of like the case of going, why don't we pull into one of these country pubs, get a bit of dinny-doddy ding-dongs.
That's the one. See, I'm obviously sort of behind the scenes shit here. I said to Lewis how many pages of notes I've done for this episode, and safe to say they are substantial because I'm not used to leading these episodes. But yay, my style is no notes, but I've got full notes this time, and when I mean full notes, I need nearly a whole novel. But of the things I have noted, not I've noted down, what I didn't note down was this sort of absolute blinder of a line that Lewis has just reiterated. So.
So yeah, Max is sort of like going, they've got lovely pubs round here, nice carveries, and then Max proceeds to tell the story of a mixed grill he had once out in countryside.
Oh god, the bleeds weren't round. They're oval.
Food was that wide and that high.
Yeah, and I actually took the effort to write down exactly
Same.
What he ordered, yes. So what he said was the order that he had. He was talking about this this meal to Paddy, this amazing meal. I would like to have. I'm brutally honest. Mine is taken away. Let me just see how many ingredients it is. 1, 2, 3 ingredients I'd take out of this, and you'll guess which ones they are in a moment. It is so he orders. If they were, we go to what weren't on this plate. What weren't on it? Yeah, steak, liver, beef, kidney, liver, chops, pork, liver, latrine. Was it a latrine of chips? He said.
Yeah, I think that's what he was going, but it sounded like terrine.
Is it terrine or latrine? I was like, a latrine of chips. I've never said that. I was like, some person would have said like a fuck ton of chips or something like that. But hey ho, and count them, 2 fried eggs. $3.50 the lot.
Paddy's literally just a case of going, now, you know, Max, that's one thing I could never be, a vegetarian. And Max just makes a point of going, man can't live by chips alone.
Yeah, I love that. Man can't live by chips. I'll be honest with you, I tried being a vegetarian to impress a girl once upon a time. Note to all these budding gentlemen out there that are trying to woo a lady by being a vegetarian. And you don't like vegetables, don't fucking do it. Because, as Max does say, a man can't live off chips alone. I tried it for 6 months.
Christ almighty, 6 months?
Well, it was chips and corn, essentially. Chips and corn.
Jesus.
You've not for just so you know, you don't know horror until you've tried a corn roast. That's all I'm going to say. It's an abomination. It should not exist.
Oh.
It is horrific.
So Paddy makes a point of going, I tell you what, I tell you kind of people who have it worse than vegetarians. It's being a mecon.
Mecon, yeah.
Being a what? A mecon. I tell you what, those folks can't eat anything. And Max just goes, a vegan, you tool. He's like, oh, yeah, that's it. No, Paddy likes his meat.
That's where I got that line from, just to make people like sort of like look at you funny. So, yeah, I like my meat. He's like, what? What are you implying, sir? You come from Blackpool. I could mean anything.
Nah, Paddy goes, call me old-fashioned, but what I like is white, tender, off-the-bone chicken. And he's like, what's yours? And Max is like, cow.
Cow.
He's like, what? Cow! And there's a cow walking in the middle of the road.
Next
so
thing
literally, slams on the brakes. And then there's a thud. And
yeah,
whilst at the same time, they've cut to like an outward shot of like, you can see like the camper van just above like the hedgerow, and you just immediately following the thud, there's like the figurine of a cow just sort of like doing a big loop in midair where we've go.
It's like they replaced the cow with an inflatable, isn't it? You know,
yeah.
It screeches sort of boink, and it's just like wee. So funny. But then he cut back and it literally looks like the cow literally looks like if you have them toy sets of farms, them farm sets, and it literally looks like a plastic cow, but about inflated by God knows how much in size. It's so unrealistic, but it's like it's a cow that's like it's literally just been run over and it's like stiff.
Yeah. Rigor mortis has already kicked in.
It kicked in mid-air. It's like landed square on its back. So yeah, I believe that's the point where we have our opening credits, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we have our opening credits. Obviously, the song "Max and Paddy's Road to Nowhere." We don't take shit from anyone. But this cow did, and Paddy, we come out to a shop, and they both approach this cow, and Paddy asks, "Is it dead?" Paddy asks if it's dead. To which Max responds, "It's that, or it's gonna piss it down with rain."
The first thing he does is like give it a good swift boot.
Yeah, he just proper wallops it one. Yeah.
And one thing I picked up watching this episode, I don't know whether Peter Kay actually makes connection with this kick. Because, like, in the outtakes, they do this, like, particular scene of sort of, like, Paddy going, is it dead? And then Peter Kay will just sort of, like, full force kick it, and it'll move. And it sort of, like, moves. And, like, Paddy's just literally a case of going, it's a bit strong, that kick. And he's like, it's funny, that kick. And then he's just sort of, like, on the next take, after it sort of, like, after he delivers the kick, Paddy's like, it's because it moves, you see. It's like, that's what really freaks me out about it. So I think there's sort of like been a bit of post-editing in this, because he doesn't give it, like, Peter Kay doesn't give it like full whack. He almost like pulls up short, and then you get sort of like the effect of, like, actually connecting, because it doesn't actually move in sort of like the final product.
No, well, you've got to be careful though as well. If they use the same cow as they did for the outward shot, it'll just take off and just fly off. Can you imagine it? Boots a hole in it, and it's off down the field. But yeah, after they've ascertained if it's alive or dead, they try to move the cow. To which point, Paddy grabs one of its teat.
Udders.
It's udders. Yes, it's teat udders, whatever you want to call it. So you get Peter, not
Max,
Peter, Max.
Max going, grab its hooves, not its tits. You got frigging milk all over you.
He does the what I can only call the Phoenix Knights universe objection beforehand, though. It's a whoa, 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 whoa. He's like grab its teeth, that's it, soon you'll be covered in milk, man.
Yeah, and it's been ascertained that the bumper and one of the headlights has been damaged from actually colliding with the cow.
Oh, so
yeah. They make a trek up to the cow's sort of like, farming residence.
Yeah. They say the number plate's hanging off as well, which means their bollocks is hanging on the floor.
Ba-dum-bum.
But yeah, they go banging like a bailiff on the farmer's door, proper banging away. And they talk about obviously claiming what the road and what have you, and ticking off this farmer about the cow why it's in the road and what have you. And Max comes up with absolute bells to say, I saw a case like this on Judge Judy. They cleaned up, and that was before Whiplash.
And he goes to Paddy and sort of like, how's your neck? And Paddy's like, agony. He's grabbing at it,
nodding away. Doing neck stretches.
They don't get any answer from the front door. It's just sort of like, there's no reply, there's nobody in. And Paddy's like, oh, I bet he is in. It'll just be in the back. Counting his money!
Oh, God. Yeah, after this, it's at this point, yeah, I'm just looking through my notes, But yeah, the farmer should be teaching his cows about road safety. You just imagine it just stand by the edge of the road, and it's like, look both ways. Chew.
Graze,
yeah. If there's a handy bush there, just graze off that as well. Just stay out of the hard black stuff. But yeah,
they're able to find this sort of like atypical farmer who's like messing about with a scarecrow in the middle of a field.
Yeah, he's the stereotypical Wurzel farmer. If you get what I mean, one of the words,
Wurzel Gummidge.
That's the type, yeah. So he's telling him they've knocked over one of his cows. He just looks at him and like, oh, not again.
I keep trying to tell them, but they never listen.
And what gets me is literally they have like a confused look on their face for all of like a nanosecond, and they just carry on. Is that what is it? One of them says, what you need is fences. It's like, so got them last year, but weather ruined them. No money to replace them. And then then foot and mouth wiped us out. And then Paddy's literally like, oh, here comes the sob story.
That's really dated in this show, sort of like, foot and mouth. Cause
it is, yeah.
I can remember that as like a young kid. Sort of like, I remember it was like a prominent feature in the fucking news, that foot and mouth disease.
Yeah, it was like, I think I was in college at the time when it was happening, yeah. So it's around roughly just before this aired, so about 2003 would make sense. If I do remember correctly, though, because I used to live in not even a sub-rural area, an actual rural area where I worked. I used to work in a care home in the middle of the countryside, and there was it was like a local foot and mouth outbreak, and we had to go and it's similar to what it is now, obviously with the world that we're in at the minute, global bastard. It was super cleanly, so I remember going through and having what I can only describe as a sheep dip. Every time you came in, it was sort of like a little trough, and it had disinfectant in it, and you had to walk through it before you came into the care home and keep your spread foot and mouth.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was 2010, something daft like that. So it's been around for a while. It'll probably come back again. But yeah, foot and mouth dates it. But it was a big deal, just before this aired. So
yeah, very big deal.
Like you say, it does properly date this. But one thing that cracked me up on this episode, on this bit, was the next bit coming up where the guy, the Worsley type farmer, just stands there and he opens his arms out wide and he goes, what was he saying? This was all fields at one time. And he stood in the middle of a farm. They should give you a clue as to whether all of his dogs are barking or whether they're mooing in this case. So, yeah. But they do kind of give him a bit of a funny look as well. My father says, this all used to be fields at one time. It was scrubland. My father worked him until his fingers bled back in the summer of '69.
Which is the first of many, many music lyrics to make its way into this episode.
Absolutely. This episode is absolutely full of references.
Yeah.
Absolutely jam-packed. It's to the point where you actually have to research them to get the full enjoyment out of this episode. Mm-hmm. Which there was a lot of enjoyment out of this episode, might me add.
So the next little bit is sort of Max and Paddy are just sort of it's cow damaged our motorhome. It's just sort of and we're not, who's going to be paying it? And he just sort of if you've come here looking for money, you've come to the wrong place. All I've got left is the old girl. And Paddy's just sort of whoa, we don't want nothing to do with your wife.
No, we're not swingers.
It's no, not my wife. She's been long gone, got knocked down by a combine harvester. She's buried over there. And it cuts to this sort of white cross in the middle of the field. And then it cuts back to Wurzel, who's sort of and over there. And Max and Paddy turn in sort of a different direction to another bit of the field. And it cuts to a shot of two more white crosses.
Yeah.
And then it cuts back to Wurzel again and he goes, and the rest of us over there. And it cuts to another shot. And there's literally a great big massive landscape shot with 7 or 8 white crosses all dotted around the field.
It's just been minced by this. And
then Max goes, rest in pieces.
It's to be fair, it's the go-to line. It is the go-to line. Oh God. Yeah, that tickled me as well. But yeah, that says out his mate. All I've got left of this value is this pig. And we to look at each other, and it's sort of what are we going to do with a pig? And with all the enthusiasm in the world, Mr. Wurzel goes, you could sell it.
Directly like that, as if sort of it's a suggestion for you.
Yeah.
But, it almost in sort of a tone of sort of well, you could sell it, but you could keep it at the same time.
Yeah. You have it as a pet. Yeah. But yeah, Max and Paddy sort of have a 2-man huddle, shall we say? And
Paddy kicks it off by saying, "I smell bullshit, and it ain't coming from the pig."
But yeah, so it's not a bad idea, that is it? 300 quid. We can profit here. So it's sort of
they ask if they've got any sort of anywhere they can store it for sort of like transportation.
Oh.
He's just sort of like, nope. He's like, well, where are we going to put it? And Wurzel just goes, well, what's wrong with that? And he points out the motorhome. And Max just sort of like, that right there, that's our motorised home. He's like, it'll be all right. We'll whack a bit of tarpaulin down.
Whack a bit of polythene, I think it was. Is it polythene?
It might have been polythene.
Yeah, because it's see-through. Transport pit, asked if they it'll be okay, just put some polythene sheets down. And as he's doing it, it cuts to Paddy sort of like doing it, getting strips of tape and taping it all down. You've got Max in the background going, don't want to pissing and shitting all over our home. And then, obviously, just before all that, obviously, you see outside, you got the pig on sort of like blue rope, sort of like a leash.
Yeah.
And you see Max counting the money out. Now, what got me was, hang on a minute. They've just, like, they're there to claim compo for a smashed light and a bumper. So why are you giving this gentleman £100 to take this pig off your hands?
Well, it ascertains itself very much later into the episode why they have.
Yeah, but it's ridiculous. But then we get the directions to market, which is fantastic, absolutely fantastic. So you go through Village, past the Dutchy pub on the left hand side, and then he just stops.
Dutchy Pond.
Dutchy Pond.
Which is another musical lyric.
Yeah. So he just stops. He's like, right. And then you'll see a white church.
another long pause.
Yeah.
Max is like, and ignore it. Ignore it. He's like, go straight on, and the market's right in front of you. He's like, right, it's okay. It's like, it starts the engines like, pigs on board. And Wurzel's, pigs on board. Pigs on board. Pigs on board. On your way now.
And you're on your way.
He's still freaking there, gripping up, because like Max has obviously wound the window down, so he's sort of like Wurzel's got his sort of like a tight grip on sort of like the
it's like he's ripping the door off
the window frame, and Max is just sort of like let go now, and
he's peeling his fingers off.
Peels his fingers off, and he's just driving away. It's like frigging, he's a couple of berries short of a fruit salad, that one.
Yeah.
as I would probably describe him.
Absolutely. That character is amazing, by the way. I love that farmer. He's so good. But yeah, they drive away, and the pig's chilling in the back, as it is. You get some corkers lines like.
There's a line here from Max I love. It's just sort of like, she's not eating me good fleece, is she? Which is such a northern expression.
Absolutely. But then you got Paddy, obviously, as well, throwing doubt onto the idea. It's like, oh, we're really going to make 300 quid. Says, yeah, have you ever heard of the term piggy bank? Where do you think it comes from? And you can use every part of the pig, apparently.
Yeah. Trout to snout.
Was it snooter to tutor or something like that?
Snooter to tutor, that was it.
Yeah, snooter to tutor. You can even use its flute. It's what?
It's pork sword. And Paddy goes, it's cock.
Cock.
It's like, yeah. Well, what do they use that for? It's like dog chews. Paddy's like, dog chews? He looks away. He's just sort of like, he goes, that's the last time I let a dog lick my face.
If that's the case, he's got to watch out. He's always, where's the Belgrano sisters been? Weren't complaining then.
No. They drive on a little bit further, and Max is sort of like still talking about how he can pretty much eat every part of a pig. He goes,
we pass another reference, though. So there's a sign in the road.
Ah, yeah.
It's only foals and horses. We've got another reference here. But yeah, they have. It goes on to say that
it's eyes. Delicacy in Iran.
They call it tapas.
They call it tapas. And then he goes, it's tongue. He's like, it's what? It's tongue. And he sticks his tongue out.
Yeah.
There's a great line here, just sort of like Max going, oh yeah, I used to eat tongue all the time as a kid. My mum used to give me tongue every week, regularly.
But here's the thing as well, right? All of this is bullshit. Because the tongue that's actually used, what he's talking about, I used to have tongue on a sandwich all the time. It's ox tongue.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's not the same. There is one thing he does say, though, that is absolutely bang on the truth. 100% the truth. And it's the thing about pig sperm.
Oh, yeah, to induce labour.
That is actually what they use. Yeah, it's exactly what they use. So,
well, I mean, I'd heard of sort of like, horse placenta, but I never knew sort of like I never knew that pig sperm was a thing.
Yeah, it sort of like brings it on. Don't know what it is. It's what they say about, obviously, if girls are obviously heavily pregnant and they're ready for dropping and it's still not coming. They do say that if you do the deed while they're pregnant, then it helps bring it on. So it does make sense. And pigs they do use it. Obviously, it'd be a bit weird if you decided, do you know what, your missus, the baby's not come along now. Can you just get your husband to jump on the bed and just, while they're in the middle of the labour ward? Rather than just shoving a pessary up, just get your fella to do a bit, You can just see all the dads like, here we go. Just see a lot of just knackered dads everywhere.
So they see a roadside butty bar and sort of like make a case of sort of like going, oh yeah, let's pull in here, get a little, again, Paddy says, let's get a little bit of diddy doddy ding dongs. It's like, oh yes, 2 sausage butties. And they sort of like, they get the sausage butties. I'd trying to remember what the name of the butty bar. It was Harry Pitter. Harry Pitter was the name of the butty bar, and then this
is one I missed.
It was Harry Pitter and the full English breakfast.
These sides are fucking genius.
Yep. So they go get their sausage butties, and as they're coming back to the motorhome, they're sort of like rounding the corner, as sort of like the butty bar to go back into the motorhome, but they've sort of like they've allowed the pig outside, but still sort of like tied up outside. So they literally they walk round with the gobs full of these sausage butties and just see the pig looking directly at them, and they just sort of like go, yeah, we won't do this in front of the pig.
No, they turn around, don't they? Eat it like sort of like behind the butty van.
Yeah.
So after they've done that, they set off again. They pass the Dutchy pub this time.
Yep.
Pass the Dutchy. So at which point we have probably one of the most infamous scenes in this entire episode of you see just driving along and Max sort of looks at Paddy and goes, Have you
pumped? It's like, I have not. It's like, you've dropped your pack,
man. Then Paddy realises it's the pig.
No, he's sort of like, I can't smell anything. He's like, I can. He's sort of, Paddy's there just sort of like
sniffing the air.
And then goes back and sort of like, oh, it's the pig. Oh my God. Oh no.
The pig's farted. So at which point, obviously, we get a whole comical scene of where the pig's shitting and wet farting, shall we say.
Yeah.
Because it's not just your normal sort of raspberry type farts. It's proper like... It's proper wet sound. I can only describe it as wet.
Max is there just sort of like, take the wheel. I can't see. My eyes are burning. And it in the end, it just escalates, and it's like, it gets to the point where we obviously, people know now, it's an ongoing thing. I like to have fun with my backgrounds while we do this now. And my background is this scene at this moment in time where Max is behind the wheel. Actually, no, I'll say what Paddy's doing first because it's a better build-up. Paddy's there and he's wafting. He's got his face over his jacket over his nose, and he's wafting a pine tree, so air freshener in the air, while Max is sort of like grimacing, driving, with swimming goggles on his face. Just going along, just like, oh my good God Almighty, oh God. He's like pointing at Paddy, you're cleaning that up.
the pig's actually shat in the back. But I've noticed as well as you're looking at this at Max, I don't know if he's like there's actual water been put inside the goggles to make it look like he's been crying. I'm not quite sure.
You can't really tell because of the light. It's sort of like, reflecting off.
Yeah.
So it's kind of hard to tell. It's just sort of like, yeah.
How dare you!
How dare you! How dare you! This is our motorised home. We live here. And as they sort of like drive off down the road, there's an especially wet fart, and both Max and Paddy just go, "Oh God!"
And then we go to the break. Yeah. So yeah, we come back and they arrive at the cattle market. And they're looking for, is it Mr. Big Bill Ingalls, which is the guy that we've affectionately called Wurzel, as a director to us. And that's the one thing we missed out before. Yeah, was the guy that we were told to look for was it Big Bill Ingalls or something like that? I couldn't quite catch it properly, but we find out off the guys working there who very, very smugly tell him that he's been dead for like 3 years or 4 years. They're
just sort of like, we're looking for Mr. Bill Ingalls. Just sort of like, you best have a look in the cemetery because he's been dead for 5 years.
Yeah. So they ask him, so they go up to him and they say, we're looking to sell this pig. What, that pig? It's like, how much is it worth? Sort of thing. So he's a she sort of thing. It's like, the pig is a breeding pig. It's old and it's knackered.
And it's just sort of like, that Max is there just sort of like, trust you, Mr. Expert. You can't even tell it's a she. You're sort of like, have you had a look down there? And Max just sort of like gets on his knees, looks down. Paddy's like, what's the crack? And Max just goes, it ain't got one. It's a boy. It's a boy pig.
So yeah, it gets to the point where they're reeling for the fact that they've been sold a boy pig rather than a female pig, and then they sort of like the guy tries to ask him who they got it off. So on the details of the pigs, have you got its papers, its registration? And Paddy's like,
it's a pig, not an asylum seeker.
Oh no! Jokes that you could get away with 15 years ago, but can't now.
Very true.
But yeah, it's still funny if you take it in right context. But yeah, we're going to the next stage. So we go. So who was the name of the farmer? The farmer you got the pig off. Max just blurts out, "We don't know. We just bought it from him." To which the guy just bursts out laughing.
And he gives a valuation of the pig being about like 30 quid. And Max is just there just going, it's worth 300 quid this. And all of the frigging, the experts just howl with laughter.
Yeah, they absolutely pee themselves. So it's 30 quid. It's sod off. It's worth 300. Says, yeah, 5 years ago maybe, not now. So they'll leave it. So they say they'll leave it and they walk off to the point where they end up. They sat outside the market, aren't they, at this point? On a pallet, I believe.
Yeah.
They just sat on a pallet. It says, Max just says to him, they're after a bargain. They take your cream out, your coffee. So yeah, obviously there are a few. Paddy has Max is a bit more diplomatic on the situation. Obviously, he's trying to think of a solution. Paddy's going to his go-to. So I say we go back and kick the farmer's head in and get our money back. So we can see where Paddy's mentality is here on this situation.
Yeah.
So Max is thinking, trying to form a solution, find a solution. And his solution is, we need to find one of these yuppie types, that's after a breeding pig, the yuppie types. And Paddy goes, knobheads. or knobheads. So Max sort of goes, no, like hooray Henrys, green wellies and all that. So he's like talking about these guys that come from in city and they're looking to have a change of lifestyle, and they've come to the rural areas, say, to get a small farm and to start farming, change your pace and what have you. So Max has suggested that they go to find one of these guys that don't know their ass from their elbow.
Yeah.
So he's gone for that, and but then Paddy makes the point, says, but it's old and it's knackered, essentially. Says, and Max goes, no, it's not. And when we're done, they're going to think it's a pig gigolo.
To Pigolo.
Yeah, Paddy goes. Paddy's eyes sort of like brighten
light up.
Oh, a pigolo. Exactly. So they end up meeting a young farmer, shall we say, in a pub. And Max is absolutely reeling off the bullshit here. And he's like, his prize breeder bangs like a shithouse door in a gale. And the guy asks, oh, what? And he goes, a gale? I fucking love that bit. It's proper like...
He proceeds to like ask Paddy to bring the pig over by calling him boy. I say boy.
Lucky
over here. Freaking brings over this like farmer, looks at him, just sort of like, oh, he looks a bit tired. And Max just goes, you be tired if you did as much shagging as this pig did. Hell, just the other day, he tried having a go at a Shetland pony. Took us 5 people to try and get him off him.
Oh, I've actually got the quote written it down of this. Tired? You'd look tired if you're on job 24/7. The guy goes, his eyes are glazed over. I'm not surprised. He's been down more holes than Tiger Woods. Doesn't know if he's coming or going. Or coming. Exactly. Yesterday, he was in next door's garden trying to bum a Shetland pony.
So the other farmer makes mention that he's got a female pig breeder
that needs to be served or serviced.
And Max is just sort of like a case of, all right, okay, well, let's get him met. It's like, boy, I say, boy, will you take him out? Chop, chop.
Oh, there's a line before that. There's a line before that. Yeah, there is a line before that. You say he goes out. You say he's got a female that needs to be served. Paddy comes in and goes, "Ha! Let's sort the pig out first." To which Max sort of looks at him disapprovingly and goes, "Take the pig to the gentleman's trailer out back. Chop, chop."
And as Paddy's going, he's sort of like, "I'll chop you."
Chop. Yeah. So we cut to the back of the pub where the pig is sort of basically, I can only describe as he's doing nout. Yeah. It's waddling around, it's walking around its pen with this female pig, just snuffling.
They're both just munching on straw.
Yeah, they're just eating straw, fucking around. Max goes, anytime now. He says they don't seem to, they're not really doing anything. Anytime now. Next thing you know, it'll be a pink blur. Once they start, they're at it like rabbits. Talking to him like he doesn't know fuck all.
Which, I mean, sort of like is true to an extent, because they're sort of like Max and Paddy, they're very eager, sort of like getting the cash as quickly as possible and sort of like making a run for it. So It's just sort of like, oh, how much do you want for it? It's like, that'll be £300 now. Come on, quick. Show us the money. Quick. Show us the money. And this other farmer's just sort of like, oh, well, let me just talk to the man. Let me just get his second opinion. And he looks off screen and is just sort of like, Joe. And it cuts to the same experts that have been ripping the piss out of Max and Paddy when they first arrived at the market. And the lead one's just sort of like, hey, up, there they are. 300 quid.
Oh, God. There was a corker, though, we kind of glazed over. I've just seen it in my notes. I'm going to start doing notes more often. But there was a bit where they're talking about them obviously not being compatible. And the guy... and Paddy goes, maybe your pig's a lesbian. And
Max is like, oh, I have heard of that. Actually.
I've read about it. I've read about that. Yeah, 300 quid, quickly.
So knowing the jig is up, they basically go to one of the pubs in the town, and they take a seat on one of the beer tables outside the pub.
Yeah.
Paddy's there just sort of like dipping his hands into like a packet of some sort and feeding the pig.
Little pork scratchings.
Max is a case of going, what's that you're feeding him? It's like pork scratchings. And Max goes, you can't do that. It's cannibalism, that.
You're messing with evolution, man. So they sort of like brainstorming on what they're going to do next for this pig. Obviously, Max suggests they can do like, county fates and race it. But then,
I love the next one. Sort of like make it have it as a sheep pig. It's like sheep pig. It's like, yeah, you ever seen Babe? It's like, that were a film though. It's like, yeah, but it worked. And Paddy goes, it also had singing mice.
Yeah. So yeah, we pan away. We sort of like Max is sort of like in thought, moment of silence, and then we look up and we see the sign on the pub, and it's Ye Olde Pat Butcher. So Pat Butcher, if you don't know, is a old character from a very famous British soap called EastEnders.
Yeah,
and she was one of the most prominent characters in it for a good while. Played by Pam St Clement, I believe.
Yeah.
But yeah, Max, after that, obviously seeing the name Butcher, Max suggests selling the pig to a butcher.
As meat,
yeah. To which we cut to a musical montage of them trying to sell the pig.
Yeah.
To, if I counted it correctly, the first was 2 butchers. One of them wasn't that interested.
Yeah.
And then the next one, he goes and tries to sell it. So I can only describe... There's a very famous butcher that was on Coronation Street.
Yes, I know exactly who you're talking about. I
can't remember his name now.
It's like Fred somebody.
Fred Peacock.
It might be, actually.
I think it's Fred Peacock, because his son was Ashley Peacock. So, yeah, it must be Fred Peacock. So, yeah, so someone that looks like him.
Fred Elliott.
Fred Elliott, sorry.
Fred Elliott, that's it.
Fred Elliott. So, yeah, looks like him. He's spitting him. It might even be him. I'm not quite sure. I've not checked the credits. But I
don't think it was, but I think that's probably what they were going for.
That's the look they were going for. So he sort of like hushes them off quite eagerly, like get away from me, sort of thing.
I love the fact as well. Is like they're parked not only on a double yellow line, but right next to sort of like a level crossing.
Yeah,
a pedestrian crossing as well.
Yeah, so it's sort of like just stop it here. There's a butcher's here. Just stop it here. To the point next time they go to the next one is Safeway. They're trying to sell it to a supermarket. So they go over to the guys. You just see Max coming out with the pig.
Yeah.
And the guy's coming out holding his nose in a full suit, and he's telling him to go away. And I think, I'm not quite 100% certain, but through his nose, I think he's like fuck off. Just tells him to, well, I can only speculate, but I think that's what I heard.
Yeah.
Best to last.
The last one.
Best to last. He tries to sell the pig to an halal butcher. How they got the pig in the building in the first place, I don't know.
Was it a halal butcher or was it like a halal takeaway?
No, it was a halal butcher.
Oh, right, okay.
So he tries to chase it away. They're literally chasing after the van, throwing things at the van. So running away. The place as well is actually called You Can Call Me Halal, which is a reference, a musical reference, believe it or not, to a song called You Can Call Me Al, which was a song by Paul Simon from 1986, from his album from 1986, Graceland. And it goes something like, you could be my bodyguard, you could be my long-lost pal, that one. It's on very, very, very many 80s sort of like radio stations nowadays. So it was a very, very, very successful song. So, but yeah, that's where that sign came from. So, but yeah, I found that a bit funny. Yeah. It was. He's like Max is diving sort of into the van while it's moving, with a pig. Bear in mind.
Well, no, they've made the conscious decision of sort of like getting the pig in the van first.
Yeah.
And then literally like.
Save the pig! Save the pig!
Yeah, Max is doing his best impression of fucking Indiana Jones, like running away from the fucking
the bolt. Oh yeah,
from the tribe coming to get them.
Yeah, if you just imposed the Indiana Jones theme on top of it, it would actually fit perfectly, wouldn't it?
It would.
They should have had that bit. I think it would have been better if you could just see Max's legs just hanging out the door as he's driving off. But yeah, we after that musical interlude, we have we could cut to a scene where the sun is setting and they still have the pig. Yeah. To emphasise that they've been everywhere and they've still got this pig. They cannot get rid of it. So Max suggests that they kill the pig and sell it on the black market.
By the way, throughout the entirety of this scene, Max is whispering. As if he's sort of not wanting the pig to overhear what they're planning on doing. It's just sort of like a case of, well, that's just it, isn't it? We'll have to kill it. It's just sort of and Paddy's like, we've gone from a £300 prize pig to selling it at a car boot on a Sunday morning.
In a school, car boot on a Sunday morning in the school car park. Oh. God, I'm there we are. I'm on the wrong page. But yeah, Paddy doesn't really want to kill the pig. So Max accuses Paddy of going soft. So obviously Paddy turns it round because Max is whispering.
It's like, soft? I'm not the one who's whispering. Yeah. You've gone soft. And Max is like, how dare you?
When you're
pinned down by sniper fire at Goose Green, killing a pig, my friend, is a day at the races.
And Goose Green is actually a place in the Falklands Islands which actually references many, many, many other things that Max has said throughout Phoenix Nights and Max and Paddy's Road to Nowhere. So it's sort of emphasising the fact, because I'm an absolute geek, I actually looked up Goose Green. And it is actually the third biggest population in the Falkland Islands, with 40 people. So, like I say, he's pinned down by sniper fire. It's probably one sniper that could see the entire island. But yeah, they kind of pick themselves up to do it. And then the pig gives them the most sort of eye-watering look, for example, you have a ham sandwich, and your dog clocks you with this ham sandwich, and it sits right in front of you and just looks at you and tilts its head ever so slightly.
It's like Puss in Boots from Shrek.
Absolutely.
Sort of with the hat.
Yeah, that's what the pig is doing. The next thing you know, they're at the farmer's door.
Yeah. The farmer's door in pitch black.
Yeah. And I love how this ends. Absolutely love it. This episode's gone full circle. They're back to where they began. The bang on the door, no one answers to begin with. But then,
or again, a different kind of farmer answers the door. Notices the pig. He's like, I don't believe it, Barbara. Bloody pig's back. It's like, where'd you find it? It's like, find it? We bought it. Off who? It's like, the bloke who owns this farm. Is he in? And they're sort of both Max and Paddy. They're just looking
over his shoulder. Yeah.
They do a case of looking over his shoulder just to see if they can. And this farmer's like, I own this farm. And then Max, it's been a testing day for him, and he just ends up going, look, buddy, we've had it up to here. We knocked a cow down and damaged our motorhome in the process, and the bloke who owns this farm sold us this pig as compensation.
Well, I love that thing. We sold this pig as compensation.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So for compensation, you gave somebody more money.
And it's summed up quite brilliantly. It's just sort of like, and do you know how much it's worth? And the farmer goes, nothing.
Nothing. Yeah.
Exactly. What?
Oh dear. But yeah, he got nothing, and then he kind of describes the guy who he bought it off, and he describes him as Greengrass from Heartbeat, which is absolutely brilliant.
Which is another reference to a character from a soap done by ITV that was predominantly broadcasted on a Sunday.
It was on a Sunday. It was on about 7 o'clock on a Sunday evening.
Yeah.
It's a sort of program that you used to watch, just chilling, trying to digest your Sunday dinner. Depending on how big a Sunday dinner you had. If it was my family, you'd be digesting it for the next week. But yeah, it's one of them. Yeah, it was a very famous program at the time. You know, it was like prime time. So it's a reference most people would have got in today. Nowadays, obviously not, because Heartbeat finished 10 years ago, maybe more.
And the theme tune for it as well is used quite predominantly in English football chants.
Yeah, it is. Yes, it is.
If you're not sure of that, people, look it up on YouTube and you'll get what I mean.
Yes, it's fun. But yeah, he describes him as Gringos, and it turns out that it's a father-in-law.
I don't believe it. Barber, he's at it again. Dad! And it sort of cuts to Wurzel Gummidge, who seems to have converted the Scarecrow from where we first sorted into a female mannequin dressed out in the sort of clothes that you'd expect to see in a shop window.
Yeah, he's dressed up the Scarecrow as a woman, and he's flirting with it.
Yeah.
He says in this quote, "It's her dad. He's wired to the moon. We'll let him hang around, but he's harmless enough."
Harmless? We paid £100 for this pig. He's like, and we want it back. And the farmer just goes, "Well, I don't think you'll be seeing that anytime soon. It looks like he's drunk the lot." Yeah,
he's already drank it. So he's basically, next thing you know, you just see him hugging like really tightly. So he's like,
humping.
Well, this is it. This is it. He's got the arm falls off the mannequin. And he goes, "Oh, I love me a struggle." To which point he starts dry humping the Scarecrow.
And then to sum this up for Max and Paddy, the farmer just literally goes, "Oh, right. So it was you that killed my cow then." And I love this sort of like final shot before the end credits, because you can see fucking Wurzel all the way in the background, sort of like dry humping this mannequin, and Max and Paddy just let off a great big massive.
Yeah. So the credits roll, and Max and Paddy are in a pub called the Beadle's Arms. Now, this is a reference from the mid-2000s, this. So Max goes, "Are you still serving food?" There's a clock on the background. While this conversation is going on, the clock appears. They show a clock. It goes, it's quite late, but we'll squeeze you in, sort of thing. But he turns around to this clock, and it's the two hands. The little hand, the little hand is the small hand, and there was a big, like...
I like that.
Yeah, like his arms crossed, sort of thing. And there was a big thing back in the day where Jerry Beadle had a smaller hand than the other hand, and it was called like Little Hand. And the little hand was the little hand on the clock. The big hand's obviously his normal hands. It's the theme, the pub around this joke, the clock, everything. Just take the piss out of Jerry Beadle's little hand. But yeah, the bar guy squeezes him in, and then as they sit down, there's a guy that seems to be sat like on the next table. He's like he looks like he's competitive eating.
Yeah.
He's even got like a t-shirt on with it on, and he lets off a massive burp while he's still eating one of his courses. And you just see Max turn to him and go, "How dare you? How dare you?" And the guy just looks proper embarrassed.
The guy looks at him and just sort of like going, "What?
What am I eating?" So then next thing you know, they get table number 8. Next thing you know, you see this great big silver tray type thing get wheeled in. They open it up, and it's a whole pig roasted with an apple in its mouth. Max and Paddy sort of look at themselves, and the lady comes over, "What's your order?" And they both simultaneously shut the menus. "Can we have a couple of nut cutlets, please, Flower?"
Which, because I actually had to look this up of sort of like, it's obviously something vegetarian.
Yeah.
But I think it's like the vegetarian equivalent of like meatloaf.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's literally just sort of like a case of they both shut the menus. "Well, 2 nut cutlets, please, Flower." And they're just sort of like this. They look at this guy who's like literally gonna devour this whole pig, with just sort of like a great big massive look of disgust on their faces.
Yeah. Put off meat for life, or at least pig anyway. So yeah, if we start off the episode where they just want to eat meat and nothing but meat, and then they end up being vegetarians. And that's your episode, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, until the next episode anyway.
Yeah, well, this is it. When they go to Little Chef.
Yes.
Or whatever it is. But
yeah.
But yeah, that's episode 5 of Max and Paddy's Road to Nowhere, and it was an absolute fucking belter.
Yeah, I've got to be honest. It's sort of like, I'm not saying I didn't enjoy this episode. I did. Yeah. But I think I appreciate it a lot more now after we've sort of like talked about it. The sort of like this, because what made this episode for me was sort of like the little references, the little pop culture references here and there, like dotted. And I only thought it was sort of like a couple here or there, but it's filled with them, and it's spread out quite nicely as well. Like, yeah,
there's like at least a reference every 5 minutes minimum in this episode. Minimum. And I've not researched an episode of Phoenix Nights or anything in the Peter Kay. I'm going to call it the Peter Kay universe as much as I've done here. But it's necessitated because there's that many references in here. If you don't know them, you're missing out.
Yeah.
You know, I actually Googled the actual name of the sign for the butchers. You know, you can call me Halal.
Yeah.
And it's actually, someone has actually broke it down. Like, it's in a list of the 5 funniest shop names. And that's how I got to find out the information, because it's up there. People have researched this already.
Yeah.
And I would never have done that without making the notes and what have you. But I don't know. Curious me, I probably might have done. But because if you don't know, you're doing yourself a disservice not looking these signs up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like Goose Green, I know roughly, it was probably something to do with the Falklands, but I didn't know if it was a place he was making up until I looked it up. So, you know, it's worth looking up for this stuff. I mean, I joked with Lewis about how many pages of notes I made for a 24-minute episode. 9 sides of A4 was my notes for this episode.
Yeah.
It's that many references, that many details, that many quotes in this episode. It's one of the, to be honest with you, I really enjoyed it. Not just for the references, I actually found it genuinely funny. The bit just before the break was absolutely hilarious. You know, but then you got the interaction with the farmer at the beginning of the episode and at the end. The only dull bit for me was when there was actually in the cattle market for me, but
I'd say probably the interactions in the pub.
With the young farmer.
Yeah, because even though they were sort of like, you know, really funny references, it just seemed like a little bit. I don't know. I probably didn't find it as funny as other people might have.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah, to me, it's that bit. It was needed. It was necessary for the episode, the story of the episode. It just wasn't as funny as the other parts of it.
No.
But yeah, I really enjoyed this episode. It's probably my second favourite episode. Now, I wasn't here for last episode in the prison. Which is a shame, because for me that is the best episode. And as you guys know, I actually did watch the episodes, and I did make notes, and I did provide information for you too. But that episode, the one that I missed, that for me so far is the best episode.
It's still the best.
It's not as it's better than this episode. Don't get me wrong. This is up there for me as one of the best episodes of Max and Paddy's Road to Nowhere. It's up there with one of them. I can't say any more on that. It's a good episode. Really, really good. It is
a good episode. Yeah.
I'll tell you my thoughts in general about Max and Paddy's Road to Nowhere at the end of the next episode. But yeah, I really enjoyed this episode. It was a joy to spend an hour and a half making notes for.
And I enjoyed watching the 23-minute episode in full. maybe pausing a couple of times here or there for the extensive bits of notes I had to jot down.
Absolutely. Oh, don't get me wrong. You know what I'm like when you're watching these episodes. As I've said in the past, I've watched these episodes only 2 or 3 times. Max and Paddy, I'm only doing twice because the commentary's not worth listening to. I'm sorry, Peter Kay, but it isn't.
No, it isn't.
But yeah, get it watched, get it enjoyed, and obviously, if you enjoy this episode, if you enjoy Max and Paddy's Road to Nowhere, this episode we talk about, let us know on Twitter or anything like that. Mm-hmm. Speaking of which, you might as well get plugs. You want to do yourself, Lewis, first, and then.
Yeah, I might as well. 3 platforms that I go by. On Twitch, I stream quite regularly on Twitch, normally about like 3, maybe 4 times a week if I can find the time. Predominantly sort of like Let's Play series of story-driven games. At the moment, not only working my way through the Yakuza series, the remastered collection on the PlayStation 4, but I'm also doing a playthrough of the remake of Final Fantasy VII, which I'm starting to enjoy now, because it was a little bit of a slow start to begin with, but it's one of those games that sort of like, I'm guessing it picks up a lot more the more you play it.
Did you play much of the first one, the original?
I didn't play any of the first one.
Right. See, you probably get more joy out of it by comparing it to the old one. So
yeah.
Well, I've not played the remake, so
I've never played it. I've never been a Final Fantasy player, to be honest with you. So this is my first introduction to the series. So as well as streaming on Twitch, all the back catalogue of my Let's Plays all go onto my YouTube channel, and it's also the place where I've recently started doing Star Wars podcasts with members of my the gaming community that I'm part of, the Gamers Lair. And we've got a recording coming up this Sunday, or if this isn't going out, tomorrow night. Pretty much sort of like on a 2-week basis, sort of like the same thing that we do with the Phoenix Pod. Sort of like we aim to do a podcast every 2 weeks, predominantly on the Sunday. And the only other place I'm on as well is Twitter as well, where I pretty much debate about anything from the 2 kinds of football that I watch to professional wrestling. So make sure that you follow me on Twitch, on YouTube, on Twitter. All 3 of them are available under the handle Loggers109.
There you go. Get it followed. As for me, takes a deep breath. You can find us on Lost Art of Podcasting at LAOP on Twitter, I believe. LAOP Podcast. Something like that on Twitter. Lewis is frantically looking it up now. See, one thing, and I've already screwed it up. This is why we need Coxie, because Coxie knows these things.
LAOW Podcast.
That's Lost Art of Wrestling, and it must be
Lost Art of Wrestling.
Yeah, so that's Lost Art of Wrestling, but that's relevant because we do have a episode out on Lost Art of Wrestling where it's an absolute belter, where it's Uncle Dave and the Arties, where we give our own wrestling awards and compare them to Dave Meltzer's. No spoilers, but get it listened.
Yeah, so it's literally Lost Art of Podcast on Twitter.
There you go, Lost Art of Podcast on Twitter, at Lost Art of Podcast on Twitter. Then there you go. You can find us on all the good podcast catchers out there, such as Spotify, Spreaker, Apple Music. We're on YouTube. We're everywhere. You look for us, we're probably on there. So that's Lost Art of Podcast, Lost Art of Wrestling, and the Phoenix Pod sort of has its own stream, I think, now on Spotify and Spreaker. So you can find us on there. What else is there? Yes, you can find me as well on the RAD Live or Random Ass Discussion, whatever it is nowadays.
RAD Podcast.
It's RAD Podcast. There we go. We'll just go with that. The RAD Podcast, where it's our go-to place to vent. You can find us on Twitter at UK RAD Podcast. We're on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, you name it. We're on there. Twitter at UK RAD Podcast. I think I've already said that. Facebook.com, we're on there. It's getting a little bit more active, actually, funny enough. But yeah, I think that's it. I don't think I've got anything else to plug. Oh, you might as well, yeah. Our friends at Gunpowder, Treason, No Plot. Our friend Bunkle is the Paladin Sorcerer Rogar on there. You can find him every week on a Monday night. Or Monday morning, actually. I tell you that. You can start your week in a dark and twisted way. And you can do that by listening to the Gunpowder Treason No Plot podcast And you can find them on Twitter at Treason No. And I think that's it.
I think that's it. Yeah.
I think that's it. And now I can breathe again. I think our lips are blue about that. I lost breath that much. Jesus Christ. But yeah, it's been an absolute blast as per usual, Lewis.
Indeedy, sir.
And hopefully next time we'll have the captain of the ship back.
Well, he'll need to be back at the helm for the season finale.
Oh, he has to be. He has to be here. He has to help us sum up this series.
Yeah.
So we need him to tell us our thoughts, his thoughts in episode 5 anyway as well. So
indeed.
Absolutely. But yeah, on that note, I think we'll call it quits here. Yeah, thank you for listening. I've been definitely stupid, and on your viewpoint, maybe sexy. So I'm not allowed to say allegedly anymore.
And I've been stowing away in the background as per usual.
Absolutely. And you've been listening to the Phoenix Pod.
Next.
Oh yeah, what could we say? You dirty pig. Dirty pig.
This is our motorhome.
Our motorhome. 300 quid. Was there an episode titled for this?
I don't think so.
I didn't see one.
Because I've literally just gone onto the IMDb page, and yeah, it doesn't really.
Just episode 5. We'll just call it Pig.
Dirty Pig.
Dirty Pig. There you go. Dirty Pig. Dirty Pig. How
Dirty Pig.
The home.
That's our home, our motorised home. We live here.